Hello there, I'm Eva Serration, and I'm here to talk about flags, specifically about our cherished rainbow pride flag and how it's been a symbol for unity in our community and about the time when it wasn't. Back in 2017, Philadelphia, known as the city of brotherly love, suddenly seemed like it wasn't welcoming to all brothers, specifically queer people of colour. There was an incident where the owner of one of the city's queer venues was heard hurling racially abusive language at a person of colour. That's by no means the only example of racism in the gay culture, but it was the most blatant in this issue. This is a culture where you're already used to seeing phrases such as no blacks, no spice, no rice, no Asians on our dating apps.
Shady gays believe in no fats, no femmes, and no Asians.
Is the no fats, no femmes, no Asians thing a real thing?
Yeah, it's like a real thing.
It is a real thing.
Well, tell me about it. What does that mean?
Just like on Grindr or like those like gay hookup apps where guys don't want just like, I guess, a generic looking white guy.
Well, that's terrible.
It's like a thing on
I'm sad now.
gay
I've
hookup
seen
apps.
that on Grindr.
That's really horrible.
It is awful.
It is horrible, but
It's kind of disgusting.
yeah. But I guess that's their personal preference or whatever their sexual fetishes are.
It's racist.
That hit me hard, I won't lie. In the past, I read those words on people's profiles and didn't really think much about it. I'd guess it was just accepted that Asian guys weren't as attractive as white guys in a predominantly white society. Sad but true, but I just took it as a way of knowing who to avoid, no skin off my nose, when I moved on. Anyway, back in Philadelphia, in a gesture of anti-racist solidarity towards LGBTQ people of colour, the organisers of Pride unveiled a new pride flag that featured 2 new stripes, black and brown, added to the original rainbow. Now, my initial response to this new flag was, huh? Okay. Bit lazy, but I see what they're trying to do. At the time, I saw it as like a token Pride issue of the year. And I wasn't sure what would come out of it, but I was glad to see that people were doing something to address the racist incident. And then came the comments. Oh boy, the comments. Many of the responses were along the lines of, "This is stupid. The rainbow already represents everybody. Since when was the rainbow about race? Brown and black are ugly colours and don't belong in our rainbow," and so on and so on. Tellingly, many of the people who reacted strongly against the flag seemed to assume that because LGBTQ people were marginalised, that there wasn't further marginalisation in our community. Did they really think that racism didn't exist? If you hadn't witnessed it before, the flag controversy brought it out into the open. The Philadelphia flag was never intended to be an official, permanent replacement of every single pride flag out there in the worldwide queer scene. It was first and foremost a highly visible gesture to open up a conversation about how we can make things better for people of colour in the community, whether it's challenging the outright racism in bars, people of colour being racially profiled and being turned away from supposedly inclusive queer venues to start with, the lack of representation in promotional material on the scene, all the way back to that nasty no blacks, no Asians on dating apps. But people just could not get past that flag. They spent all of their time and energy arguing against it, announcing that it was pointless, ugly, and even racist towards white people. Yeah, that's not a thing. But not one of these people was offering an alternative, constructive solution, so the only conclusion you could come to was that they simply did not want to talk about racism. Where's the white stripe? They demanded. Are we talking Jack or Meg here? Okay, let's talk about the rainbow flag, shall we? Designed by Gilbert Baker, the original rainbow flag had 8 colours rather than the 6 we are familiar with today. Each colour had its own specific meaning. Hot pink for sex, red for life, orange for healing, yellow for sunlight, green for nature, teal for art and magic, indigo for harmony, and violet for spirit. Later though, 2 of the original colours were removed, the hot pink for sex and the teal for art and magic. That's right, the 2 fun colours. These adjustments to the supposedly sacred rainbow were made for the very mundane reason that it was just cheaper to not print those colours, and thus the everyday pride flag was born. Symbolism and representation matters. Our rainbow flag has since been incorporated with countless other symbols to mean anything from national pride, corporate inclusion, diversity, and not to mention straight up cynical pink pound baiting from organisations who otherwise seem to do very little to actually support us. But the backlash against the corporate takeover of the rainbow was nowhere near as visceral or as ugly as it was towards the Philadelphia flag with the black and brown stripes. How do you think that makes LGBTQ people of colour feel when we hear that black and brown are ugly colours that don't belong in the flag? It's hard to hear those words and not feel excluded, whatever you think of the aesthetics of a flag. In 2019, Manchester Pride, here in my home city, adopted the Philadelphia flag for the very same reasons: to show solidarity, inclusion, and to stand against racism. And how I wish I could tell you that it was a very different story here. Nope. The same reactions came. People ignored or denied that racism existed in the community, seemingly taking issue with the gesture itself, but paying no attention to real people's experiences, and again arguing that the flag was racist towards white people, and on it went. One particular white drag artist even designed a poster for their event that delightfully depicted a unicorn vomiting up the black and brown stripes of the flag onto the streets under the real rainbow. Yeah, thank you very much for making queer people of colour feel welcome at your event. It's important to remember that when white cis male drag queens take off their makeup, no matter how proud they are of their queerness, they'll still be cis, they'll still be male, and they'll still be white. When I take off my makeup, I will always be a person of colour. The onslaught of voices just kept saying, we don't need a new flag. Racism does not exist. Changing the flag is divisive. Wait, so you're arguing about the flag because you think it will cause people to argue about the flag? Okay. It just seemed like a lot of people saw the new stripes as a literal black mark on their rainbow-coloured utopia. The truth is, many queer people aren't comfortable knowing that their inclusive rainbow community isn't as inclusive as they'd like to think. It seemed at times that the flag itself was much more important than the real community it was meant to symbolise. Even after seeing it happen in Philadelphia, no one in Manchester expected the backlash to be so visceral, especially not the people who were supposed to help. But with every cloud comes a silver lining, or sometimes a rainbow. Like me, many others who were uncertain as to whether racism was still prevalent in the community saw the reactions and realised that there's still a lot more work to do. Whether it be racist jokes of a drag queen, racial grinder preferences, or just an overall lack of representation. Because of the controversy though, people did come out in favour of change. People spoke out about their own experiences of racism, and allies came out and vowed to support them. prominent members of the community used their platform to speak out on these issues. Some venues began to make an effort to diversify their promotional material. Some venues hoisted up the new flags to say, "We support all our community." Remember, no one is saying that if you carry on using the regular flag that you're a racist. If you want to fly that flag, you fly it with pride. And on the flip side, no one is saying that the new flag will magically solve racism in the community. But please don't use all of your energy and passion to argue against a flag, but use that energy and passion and channel it into why that flag was created in the first place. As a collective community who have been dismissed, marginalized, and discriminated against, we should know better, and we must do better. If we all stood side by side, walking forwards together, maybe, just maybe, the world would be a much more colourful place.